Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Addie. I am a mom to 3 little girls, and today I'm gonna share with you some of our best tips for airplanes. If you've been around here, you know that we just are getting back from a trip internationally with our little ones, and if you've been around a long time, you know that we are not new to traveling. We love travel. We like to get out as much as we can, and typically, usually with the kids, including when we took our 1-year-old on a year-long round the world trip. So we have a lot of different tips for like airplanes and airports and kind of navigating the system, and I wanted to share some of those with you today. So first off, what I wanted to talk about is the timing of when you book your flights. Sometimes you have some flexibility in that, and if you can pick a flight that kind of is in sync with your kids' schedules, it tends to work out a lot better. So for example, if you're gonna be taking an international flight, multiple hours, you know, like 7+ hours, I think it's always best to plan the flight for bedtime. So night flights, which if you're flying internationally, a lot of times they are in the evening hours anyway, which really will help you. So trying to plan them for bedtime when you have extended flights, I think is just so easy. They sleep most of the flight, so you don't have to kind of entertain them as long, and that just kind of really works out. Now they might not fall asleep right away, so if their normal bedtime is 7 o'clock and you're boarding a plane at 6:45, likely they're not gonna fall asleep right at 7 because it's a whole new environment for them. They're gonna wanna explore a little bit. You're gonna have to have different position taking off than you are maybe if you wanna like unbuckle and relax a little bit. So don't expect them 7 o'clock, as soon as it hits out on the plane, it's gonna be a new environment. They're gonna wanna be exploring, they're gonna be curious. So it might take them a little longer to go to sleep than say normally. Now, if you have that kind of, babies are easier because you can strap them onto you, once you're in the air and just kind of walk the aisles a little bit and help them fall asleep on you. And if you're lucky enough, you can get the bassinet, you can request those and just put them right to sleep in there. But if they're a little older, that like 18 to 2.5 type, where they just refuse to sleep because they're so curious and they don't want to go to sleep, then again, that carrier can be a godsend, because once you're in the air, you can kind of strap them in, put a little hood on so it blinds them, and just kind of walk up and down the aisles, rock them, kind of force them into a sleep. And then once they're asleep, typically they kind of are pretty good about staying asleep even on a plane. And then the older ones, kind of like if they can do the monitors and stuff, as soon as you tell them they can't do that anymore, then they get pretty bored and fall asleep anyway. So a lot of times just planning those for times where you can sleep. Depending on the age, you may or may not, if it's a shorter flight, want to schedule around nap time. That has actually not worked well for us in the past because again, it's a new environment. If you have like a 2-hour flight, they're not gonna fall asleep immediately once you get on the plane. So then they're falling asleep maybe halfway through or at the end of the flight, and then you have to pick them up and move around and get off the flight. Like that just hasn't worked too well for us in the past. So I actually would caution maybe against flying right at nap time if you can avoid it. Instead, just having to entertain them might be what you have to do. And just one other thing to note, like if you are doing one of those 9 to 12-hour flights and you are planning to do bedtime, we typically on the plane will do our exact bedtime routine on the plane. So that means actually putting PJs on, actually reading a book, actually like giving them like a little blanket and like cozying up and saying goodnight. Those things that you do in your bedtime routine, just recreating it on the plane helps us trigger to our kids that it really is bedtime, even in this new environment. So bringing your routine to the plane has been helpful for us, even though it's maybe a little bit more like logistically hard, like having to change them and doing that. It just for us has helped trigger that bedtime mindset for them. Babies, littler kids, maybe you can already have them in their PJs if you want, when it's not quite, they fall asleep a little easier, but that's helped us for our more toddler, preschool, kind of kindergarten age kids, especially if they have to get up and go to the bathroom before going to bed anyway, like might as well just make it an adventure. The next tip I have for you is to help get your kids' energy out as much as you can before you board that plane. So a lot of times airports have a children's section. Sometimes it's not necessarily in the terminal that you're leaving from, so you may have to like look on a map and try to find where it is. But even if you can't make it to that, just letting them kind of run up and down the halls, letting them do spins and somersaults by the window while they watch the plane. But just really letting them get as much energy out as possible has helped us, because then we do more calm down stuff once we're on the plane, but they at least have that energy exerted. Playing Simon Says is another good option, but yeah, just doing those things. Then also, when it's time to board the plane, oftentimes airlines will give priority boarding to those with children. Don't do it. Oh my gosh, do not do it. Any second longer that you have to be on the plane is harder, in my opinion. So we wait typically until the very last minute. We are usually the last ones on the plane because it just helps the kids, you know, it helps them be not in a contained environment for a longer amount of time. And once you get on the plane, what if you're stuck on the runway for a little while? Like then your plane ride is even longer. And so just minimizing that amount of time that we have contained on a plane is always helpful for us. And if you have a stroller, a car seat, or something you're worried about, you know, getting on, you want to get on early to help take care of all that stuff, you can gate check those items. So you kind of leave it on the tarmac, like runway, not tarmac, the little jetway that brings you to the plane, and people will come and just take your luggage, take your stroller for you so that you do not have to kind of bring it on a plane. And even if you're traveling with a car seat on the plane, they have cross checks, they have to close the boarding doors, they have different things that you do. You still should have enough time to install those seats if that's what you're doing or whatever it is. I would just always recommend, anytime you have kids, board as late as you possibly can. Don't miss your flight, but board one of the last few people on the plane. It just makes life easier. Next up, I would suggest not doing screen time right away. So even if you have one of the little monitors right there, as soon as they start screen time, things just seem to go downhill. Kids' moods seem to change. Like it just doesn't work out well for us. So we typically just try not to pull them out. We just try to let them look around, be curious, like ask all their questions, touch all the little boarding cards that they want to look at, do all the things until they start kind of complaining. Then we'll move to maybe a snack and see how long we can entertain them with that. And then they can get some screen time. So if you have the older ones that are like doing the monitors or like your tablet or whatever you're bringing, that's the kind of circle or timeline that I would do that. For the littler babies, which I think are the hardest, like 18 months, 12 months to bring on a plane, I think they're the hardest because they're mobile. They can't quite tell you what they want, and they really don't have the attention span to watch a show. So I think those are the hardest. And so for them, it's more about entertaining. But again, I would just let them be curious as long as possible. Then maybe a snack, which snacks just save the day. You can always just pull out a new snack. That just seems to really help. But then at that point, then start the kind of activities or entertainment that you're gonna bring. It just makes things like less crazy in your brain. And speaking of snacks, like I said, they can be total lifesavers. I always try to bring a couple special snacks that we don't always have all the time at our house. Like I don't typically buy goldfish, but maybe I will for the plane. I don't buy fruit snacks, but maybe I would for the plane. They're kind of exciting snacks that they see that are new, that they know they like, they look fun. A lollipop maybe for when I need like that little extra. I really like making little food necklaces or bracelets or whatever, depending on the age of your child, but stringing pretzels or Fruit Loops or Cheerios or something on a little chain that they can attach to their wrist and then just bite, or attach to their neck and just lift up to bite. That has really worked well for us. You don't have to keep grabbing, they don't drop on the floor, that sort of thing. And then kind of for the littler ones, just a snack container sometimes is helpful, where they can kind of reach in, but if they turn it over, it won't spill. We typically have like snack bags, and I will link in the description below. I have a video on what exactly we have in our snack bags, but it's like usually a big Ziploc, and then it has littler Ziplocs in it of snacks, and that will, like, they can eat however much they want at any time, but when it's gone, is kind of our motto. And I often will bring one for going to and one for return. That way I have, you know, both snack bags right there. So snack always such a good way to kind of distract, deflect, entertain. And then of course there is just entertainment, bringing the things on the plane in which are going to help you entertain them so that you don't go crazy. And again, I have other videos that have showed exactly what we have brought for entertainment on previous flights, so I will link that down below. But some of the things that I always try to include are window clings. So at the Dollar Tree, you can find whatever season it is, little clings that go on your window. Those are great to like stick on and off trays or the airplane window or whatever, or for them just to pull apart. Wiki sticks are another good one, you know, kind of like the wax little strips that they can mold and build things into. We always bring a little figurine or a little like animal or like whatever they're into at that time that they can pretend with. And typically also a vehicle of some sort, you know, if they're into cars or planes or trains, just something mini that they can vroom around, like a Hot Wheel is great. Because I have girls, baby dolls are like their thing, so maybe we'll bring like a little baby doll bowl and spoon so that they can pretend with their little figurine person that they brought. Those are like what my girls tend to like the baby doll pretend, but maybe your category might be different. Maybe a water wow or other coloring sort of situation, like just like a little notepad or post-it notes with a pen or a couple crayons. I really like squigs because those suction onto things, and so they can suction and fiddle with, and I'll bring maybe just like 3 or 4 of those. Same with Legos or Magna-Tiles. You don't have to bring a whole set. You can bring like 6 Duplo Legos, for example, and they can make a lot of different creations out of those, or they can pretend one's a bed for their figurine guy to go on. It can just like be used and pretend like that. A small little tub of Play-Doh can be good for like a different sensory activity, or maybe a popper. For me, I prefer only to bring a popper if I have like a 9 to 15 month old, because at that age, they're super into the popper and they keep at it for a long time. Older kids, I feel like, do it for like 5 seconds. They do it once and they're like, okay, I did it, next thing. So it's not worth the space to bring it unless I have a child in that specific window. This time we didn't have like a newborn or like a baby kind of age, like the 6 to 9, you know, month age. But if you do, the 2 things that I feel like have always helped us in the past are like a cup and a lid. Not for them to drink out of, not for them to do snacks, but literally just for them to pull off and put on. That keeps them entertained for so long. And then also a pair of socks. You could put it on their hand and they'll take it off and try to put it on. You could put it on their foot and they'll try to do it. Like, just those 2 simple things for babies are great. And then another idea is just to like get a couple surprises from the Dollar Tree. You could wrap them so they have something to unwrap and then play with, or you could just, you know, give them something new. But something new always just seems to keep their entertainment for a little bit longer. So just a, you know, cheapo something that if it gets lost, it gets lost, you know, whatever. But just something you can pull out new for the plane. We typically travel just with like carry-on type situations. So our space really is limited. We try to stick with little toys. I think that's the best way to do it. I don't think big, huge, you know, entertainment things. For a road trip, it's a little bit different, but this is plane tips. So, and again, I do have a couple other videos. I'm gonna link them below for travel related things, and you can kind of see firsthand the things that we pack or the things that we use to entertain and that sort of thing. I hope this is helpful. You know, if you have specific questions, put them in the comments. I'm happy to try to answer those for you. Or if you want a video about a different, like, you know, zoned in on a specific topic of travel, such a passion of mine. I just love to travel so much, and I have been lucky to be able to make it happen in my life. So any tips that I can provide for you based on my experience, I'm happy to share. And yeah, that's probably all for today. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye.